Next up, we have Jamie Williams, and I believe your neurologist is also here, and I'd like to hear from you. So if you're available, please come to the front. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to just speak about my experience. I went into the pandemic as a registered nurse. I worked in COVID respiratory during the pandemic. Within Northern Ireland, I was handed PPE to look after patients that had expired 20 years previously. We were going in to an illness that we knew nothing about. During the pandemic, I was then asked, probably on a number of occasions, by my employer to have my vaccine. The NHS within England had mandated vaccination, and if we were not vaccinated, we would lose our jobs. That combined with having PPE that was 20 years, 2 decades out of date, I felt that I had little choice but to have my vaccination. I had my first vaccination in January 2021. I felt fine afterwards. Didn't even have a sore arm. It was as if I hadn't had a vaccination. I had my second vaccination on Easter Sunday in 2021 whilst working a 13-hour day. I went home from my shift and I felt generally unwell. Went to bed that evening, and the following morning, so Easter Monday, woke up and had flu-like symptoms. My flu-like symptoms persisted until the Wednesday, and I woke up in bed and I felt slightly better. That was until I tried to get out of bed. As soon as I stood up, I could feel my heart racing. I had palpitations and I felt really dizzy. I immediately lay down because I felt like I was about to faint. I tried to stand up again and I repeated this process 4 to 5 times. I measured my heart rate on standing and it was between 180 to 200 beats per minute. When I was lying flat, it was 50. Prior to the pandemic, I used to run. I used to play rugby. I was fit. I was well. And that changed overnight. I was referred to ED because they believed that I had a blood clot. I had my bloods done in ED and was seen by a registrar who really didn't want to be there. He didn't want to listen to me. I was told that I had an inflammatory tachycardia. For the medical professionals in the room, you'll be aware that inflammatory tachycardia is there no matter what your posture is. Mine was just on standing. I asked the question 4 to 5 times and questioned the diagnosis. I was sent home. When I asked him when this would settle, when it would subside, I was told 7 to 10 days. I spent 10 days at home, unable to stand up. I was able to lift cereal, milk and a bowl and sit on the sofa and pretty much lived there for the 10 days. After the 10 days, I booked an appointment with my GP. My GP assessed me face-to-face, which I was quite fortunate during the pandemic. On standing in his practice, my heart rate was 160 to 200 beats per minute. I was told that I would be seen by cardiology the same week and an urgent referral was put through. I wasn't seen for 6 weeks. During that period, I was fortunate that, well, I seen cardiology in the Ulster Hospital. My experience was less than satisfactory. It was atrocious. I was fortunate then to be taken over by a cardiologist in another health trust who seen me and listened. 3 months had passed at this stage. I was still the same. I wasn't able to stand, wasn't able to walk. And given my baseline before, I was working 13-hour shifts and doing 4 and 5 a week because we were in the middle of a pandemic. 12 months had passed, and despite trying multiple medications, I had surgery to try and carry out an ablation on my heart, which was unsuccessful. I then wrote a complaint to the health minister. I'm still waiting a response from him. I had a pretty much automatically generated letter that came out and referred it to the 2 health trusts involved in my care. I was fortunate that one of the health trusts and my consultant fought for me, and I was lucky enough to go and see a consultant in England who understood my condition. When I went to see the consultant in England, he started me on IV infusions. I used to attend outpatients at hospital several times a week for infusions. Again, I'm really fortunate to have a consultant that listens to me and that I'm heard. During that process, I was off work for in excess of 13 months. I was seen by occupational health. I was told that my likelihood of returning to work was pretty much 0. Their decision at that point was that I should go down the route of medical retirement. I was 27 years old. I argued and argued and argued and advocated for myself countless times when it felt like nobody else would. I asked the question of, why can't you put me somewhere? I'm 27. I still have a purpose. I was moved to an outpatients department, which was not where I seen my clinical practice. I used to have to leave work several times during that week. It took me, I think, 6 months to get up to 30 hours per week. I then would have left work, travelled to another hospital and had my infusions there. Again, I've been fortunate and have a fantastic consultant. I now have a central line that's placed in my arm. I carry out my infusions at home several times a week. In a day, I've just counted up my medications sitting here. It involves up to 37 tablets in the space of 24 hours. I was fit and well before. I had an issue with my central line at the weekend. I was contacted by telephone by a GP out of hours. One sentence that he said to me was that I needed to take some responsibility for my own healthcare. I have returned to work. I've actually moved countries so I can work in clinical practice. I work as an IV therapy nurse in a home care setting. The only reason that I can do my job is because 99% of it is sitting down. I have a blue badge that allows me to sit or park my car at the front of my patient's houses. I struggle then to get inside with my equipment, but I'm able to sit down to carry out the role. Many of my patients have noticed the fact that I too have a central line. I'm there as a nurse to look after those patient central lines and administer infusions in the same nature. I suppose I've learned over the course of my injury to advocate for my patients and fight for them when nobody else will, but still it feels like nobody else will support me. I applied through the VDPS process. At this point, I was not able to work. Unfortunately, my reaction to the vaccine isn't listed in the Green Book of Side Effects. I would ask you who writes that and who updates that. When you look at the statistics across the UK, there is a huge number of case studies where individuals, it's actually across the world, have damage to their autonomic nervous system, secondary to vaccination, yet that is still not listed. I don't really know. I'm now 31. This is essentially nearly 4 years on. We're no further forward. I'm concerned what my life will look like when I'm 50, when I'm 60, when I'm 70. I travelled here yesterday to speak at this event. It involved me using a mobility scooter to get through the airport. I brought my bag, and then there's a rucksack that goes everywhere with me. In there is my infusion pump and my medications, and that is just for 3 days. I just don't really know where we go from here. I don't know what my life looks like. My partner has become my carer. And again, without that support, I really don't know where I would be. And that's even in terms of the likes of managing medications, managing infusions. I'm just lost. But I think my favourite line is the Green Book. The reaction that I had was not caused by the COVID vaccination. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Jamie. That was very powerful. I'm sure everyone's learnt a lot from hearing your account.